Hello and welcome to Bright Teach. This is the first of 2 days of videos where we're going to be giving you some tips and tools on how to approach your maths, English, science and languages from our expert teachers who are going to be taking you through this journey together. We're going to start off actually with Jenny, our English and languages teacher, and Will, our maths and physics teacher, who are going to show you how to make the most of your English languages, maths and physics, and maybe some homework, but it's not really homework for you to do during this Christmas period as you prepare for the new year. So sit back, relax. We have about an hour together while we get stuck in on this video. So Jenny and Will, over to you.
Hello everyone, happy Christmas-ish, nearly. I've got my red Christmas jumper on for you, but it doesn't get any more Christmassy than that, I'm afraid. In any case, this is just a lesson to talk you through what I think your expectations, the expectations of you should be over this Christmas period with regards to English. So let me start presenting. So let's look at English language to start with. What I want to run through with you is how you can make the most, or how you should make the most of your Christmas holidays. So making the most of your Christmas holidays. The word holiday is a bit of a misnomer here, because although you are on holiday technically, as you will see in a minute, you cannot be for the whole 2 weeks. So here are my top tips for making the most out of your Christmas holidays. So do not down tools. I hate to say this, it is a holiday, but you only have 6 months left. And you cannot afford a 2-week break at this point, but you can and you should have a more restful work-life balance to make sure that you go back in January to school feeling refreshed and like you have had some sort of rest. But this is the time for you to take stock. It's not a time for you to down tools, okay? So taking stock, so tidy your room and get yourself organized. I know what it's like, you know, the weeks go past, everything becomes a bit more muddled and jumbled and disorganized. Life is fast and furious. This is your time now to tidy your room, dust it, let some fresh air in, get your space clear and decluttered and organized to make sure that your head has some sort of clarity. You've got a space where you can be that's not cluttered and chaotic. Okay, it's quite important. So put some nice music on and have a little spring clean in your room. Get your files organized, get your revision plan sorted out, and get yourself ready and energized. That's what this time is for as well. So make a plan. Make a plan for the 2-week holiday period that you've got, and also make a plan going forward for revision if you haven't already. Be realistic, okay, and be clear and detailed. So don't just say I'm going to revise for X number of hours a day and pluck that figure out of the air. Plan everything else that you've got going on in your life and slot in revision and study around it. Okay, but for the moment, focus really on the next couple of weeks. So plan to do some study of some kind every day, perhaps except for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So that's 5 days gone already. If you can do something on those days, great. I don't think it matters if it's these public holidays, but it is important also to spend time with your families and your friends. That's really important as well, to take stock, be with them, and as I said, to have some sort of rest. So make sure you have a good balance of quality sleep, effective rest, and active study. Now, I haven't just said sleep, rest, and study, because we do need to look at what those really mean, actually. So what is quality sleep? Why have I said quality sleep? Why have I said effective rest? And why have I said active study? So quality sleep. People your age need between 8 and 10 hours of sleep per day. It is important that you have good quality sleep. And actually, research shows that if you sleep at roughly the same times each day, that's really much better for your bodies. Your body knows when you should be sleeping. So 8 to 10 hours of sleep in the middle of the day and being up all night is no good. It does need to be during the night time and roughly at the same times each night. So don't deviate too much from your term time sleep habits. That's really important. No devices. I'm sure you've read, you know all this stuff already, but I'm going to say it again. No devices for an hour before bed. Okay. And this is when you can get your reading done. So this is a nice time for you to put your devices away and get some reading time. So I mean Xboxes, TV, phones just scrolling, all of those techie devices, you need to put them somewhere else for an hour before you go to bed. No phones in your room. You know, you're the generation that has been exposed to phones first, as it were. So we're sort of learning how we should interact with them as we go. You need to be not looking to us, in a sense, for the answers that the generation before you, because we don't know. Okay, so you need to trust your own instincts. I'm sure that if you trusted your own instincts on this, you probably would know that your phone usage can be addictive and that it can be intrusive in your life and it can stop you from having long periods of concentration. You must know all of this. If you looked into your heart and believed yourself, you know how damaging and how intrusive and addictive phones can be. So but trust your instincts on this. Your parents, we're sort of freaked out about this because we also know, but it needs to come from you. Okay, you need to be honest with yourselves about how intrusive your phones can be. Really, you shouldn't have your phone in your room at night. It should be somewhere else, at least on airplane mode or silent, but you might as well not have it in the room at all, and so that you're not disturbed by your friends who may not be quite so disciplined as you and texting you at 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so phones, that's really important. They can impact on your quality of sleep. Effective rest. So we sometimes think of rest as sitting in front of the TV, don't we? Or sitting and scrolling on our phones. That's not necessarily restorative. Okay, it doesn't necessarily give you that feeling that you are rested afterwards. In fact, often quite the reverse. So don't scroll. That's not restful in any way. It doesn't allow your brain to switch off. It doesn't allow you chance to reflect on things. It doesn't give you clarity of mind. That's a no-no for rest. It's not restful to lie on your bed and scroll. That's not downtime. That's not chill time. That is the opposite of that. So restful activities, there's loads of them. Okay, you'll love the last one here. So read, exercise, walk, sit, reflect, play an instrument, listen to music, socialize, play chess, play board games, do a crossword or a word search, do some coloring, drawing or painting if you can do that, if you enjoy doing that, and tidy or doing housework. Your parents didn't pay me to say this, but actually I find that quite restorative in some ways. You put some music on nice and loud and have a little tidy up. You get loads of brownie points from your parents if you help them around the house. It's good exercise as well. So all of these things, think about the kinds of things that you want to do that you find restful. It doesn't necessarily mean sleep. Okay, it's just time out and rest time. And when I say active study, this is what I mean. So be organized and plan. Take regular breaks. So do not allow for interruptions during the study period. When we are interrupted from our study, so we zone into what we're doing and we're really focused on our work, and suddenly the phone beeps and you look at your phone and you check a message, getting back into that study zone, research shows, can take up to 23 minutes, weirdly. So you're in your zone and you're studying really hard and somebody irritatingly sends you a picture of a fluffy dog. And that's really damaging for your study. And therefore, you're having to spend even more time studying than you would have done had you not been interrupted. So please, really, genuinely, the only way you can do this is to put your phone somewhere else. So the jury's out on how much time you need to that you can concentrate for. Some research says take 15 minutes every hour. For me, that's not very effective because it actually takes me quite a long time to get into the zone. And if I'm taking 15 minutes every hour, I'm having to get back into the zone again. That's quite disruptive for me. I prefer to work for an hour or an hour and a half, sometimes even 2 hours, but you need to be aware of what your patterns are. How long can you concentrate for before you need a break? But you will hit a point where you think, actually, I'm being really ineffective now. I'm studying and it's not really going in. I'm going to just take a break. You sort of should be able to listen to your bodies quite a lot, but the point is, do not allow interruptions. Don't allow your phone to take you out of don't pick up your messages and check them. Put your phone somewhere else. It really is genuinely the only way. Now, be active and not passive. So don't just read your notes. That's not going to be enough for you. You need to do something with what you're looking at. So you might make notes or flashcards, whatever it is you like. You might use color coding for some of them. You might use different fonts. You might want to write things on one side and the other. You might want to use colored cards for different topics. Whatever it is, you have to be active. You need to be doing something with your notes. You might then decide to learn something and then summarize it, writing it out yourself. Or you might decide, if you don't want to write it, you might say to your family members, I'm going to tell you what I've learned today. And you know, the vast majority of the time, especially if you're standing over them while they're cooking some food, they'll be interested in listening to you. If your family members are busy or working or whatever, you can make a recording of yourself explaining something. Imagine you're giving a presentation to somebody, because when we teach something and we can do that well, then we know it. So you could make a recording of yourself explaining something you've learnt and listen back to it and think, oh God, I forgot to put that bit in there, or yeah, that wasn't very clear, maybe I should go back over that, or I hesitated a bit here, or look back at those notes. But doing something active with those notes is important. Okay, so those are my top tips for you. I am going to close that down now, and in a second I'm going to reopen. I'm going to talk to you about what you should do within language lessons and literature lessons. Okay, so let me go back to StreamYard. Those are my top study tips for you for language, for English language and English literature, and what to do. And I will come back in a second with some more specific things that you can do for each of those two topics, subjects, language and literature. Okay, bye for now. Hi guys, so I have been through with you the study tips that I gave you. Just a quick recap. So making sure that you actually do some work, you tidy your space up, you make your plans, and you have a good balance of these three things. So these three things are key: the quality sleep, effective rest, and active study. Okay, so with English language, I just want you really to, whilst I said don't down tools, I don't want you to down tools, but I want you to just be be reading for pleasure and thinking about what it is you're reading. So if you're reading for pleasure, obviously this also constitutes rest time, so win-win. So this is the time before you go to bed or other times in the day, but that's a good time because it will set you up for sleep. It will mean that you're not scrolling on your phone or looking at other gaming and stuff and getting really high, buzzy energy, and you're relaxing and resting. So this is a good time to do it. So it's rest time and it's reading for pleasure. So whilst you're reading, I want you to think about how the writer uses language. Remember, when you're doing your analysis, you're being very analytical. You're looking at the language carefully and thinking about how the writer uses the language. Again, what does this make you feel like? What messages are the writer trying to get across to you? So don't just focus on the plot, which is what we tend to do. We focus on the plot, but obviously behind the scenes, the writer is subtly working on our subconscious. So yes, we're reading and we're galloping through the book and following the plot line, but we're also being affected by the way that the writer is writing. So as we're reading, we may be feeling certain things about certain characters. We might be mistrusting them. We might be really proud of them. We might feel overwhelmed by them, or we might be worked on in terms of how the tone and how we're feeling. Is this making us feel sad? Is it making us feel nervous? Is it making us feel angry? What is it we're feeling? So this is what happens when we normally read a book. We have the plot and we're following the plot, and then we're being worked on by the author on a subliminal level. So what I want you to do now as you're reading is take that from the subliminal and look at it in the same way that we've been doing, so more analytical. So looking at it and thinking, oh yeah, I see what the writer's trying to do here. And it will take away a little bit of the joy possibly of the reading. Well, it shouldn't do, actually. You should maybe get more out of it, but you're focusing more on the words that are used, and what the linguistic devices are that the writer is using. Okay, thinking about how they're portraying their characters and how they manage to do that, thinking about how they set the scene and what that makes you feel like and how they manage to do that. So you'll be just being a little bit more active in your reading. So you could read something new, or you could reread an old favorite and think about why you like it. If you read an old favorite that you just have really enjoyed it, and you haven't ever really sat down and analysed why you liked it so much, yes, the plot might be great, but reread it and start being more analytical. Oh, I really like this because I love the way it made me feel like this. Oh, and then now you're going to be looking at how the writer has done that. So being a little bit more analytical as you're reading. You could pick short stories or short novels so you don't feel overwhelmed. You could read a short story before you go to sleep, or you could just read a chapter before you go to sleep, and this will keep you off your phone. Yes, I do know how important it is to keep your phones away from you at this critical time. I think we're all a little bit addicted to the phones, so I'm sorry to bang on about it, but it is really important that you are aware of it. You are self-aware. Whenever you pick up your phone and you check your messages, even if you haven't heard a beep, notice that you're doing it and start to make sure that you are master of your phone and not the other way around. But anyway, back to the reading. You could read a short story before you go to bed, or you could just read a chapter or two before you go to bed, and it will help you keep off the phone. It will help you with your English, and it will get you ready for improved quality sleep. So it is a win-win-win. And so that's what I want you to do. I just want you to be reading and enjoying reading and being a little bit critical about it, being analytical when you're reading. Okay, and I think that would really set you up for some good. It would help you with your writing. You might even start to think about what you might write. If you wanted to, you could look at some pictures as well and think, what would I write? What ideas might I come up with if I was writing about this picture? But again, try to make it light touch, so it feels like you're having a break over the holiday. Don't think I'm going to take this picture and write a whole essay about it necessarily, unless that's part of your revision. Unless that's something you really need to work on, and then that's fine. But if you're just keeping your hand in and giving yourself a break, but keeping in touch with English over the course of the holiday, I think reading would really help you. Hi guys, so we're going to have a look at English literature and what I suggest you do over the holidays. We've already looked, I've already shown you about my top tips and about how to get good sleep and be well rested and study actively. So let's look at what you could do over the holidays, bearing in mind that the pace will be different from at school, bearing in mind you've probably got things that your teachers at school have set you to do over the holidays as well, and you've got your regular revision plans. So this is an additional thing that I think should be a little bit more, just have a different tone. So I think you should read a poem a day, okay? And don't worry about it. or think that you've got to research how to analyze it. We've done a lot of poem analysis already. So just read a poem a day and think about it. So you could read one of the ones that, well, you should read one of the ones that you're studying in your anthology. That's definitely one that you could read. And maybe even add another poem in there as well that you just find on the internet or that you've heard about. Think about what it's about. So just read the poem and think, what's this about? How does it make me feel? And what could I say about this poem in terms of language, form, and structure? Now, it would be nice, because your family members always want to spend time with you, ask a family member to read it too, okay? And talk about it with them. Ask them how they feel about the poem. Did they have a different interpretation than you? Did it make them feel the same way that you felt, or did it affect them in a different way? And if so, how did it affect them? So just have a chat about it. What did you think of this poem? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think it was about? How did it make you feel? That sort of thing, and just have a chat about it. And maybe you could talk to your family member about how it made you feel, and maybe even talk to them about, show them, well, this is what they did here. They did this really clever thing here where they used blah, blah, blah. This is a language device that, that we've been discussing in our lessons. And what it does, it has this impact on you. It makes this have this effect on you, okay? So you could just discuss the poem. And listen to recordings of poems that are read by poets or actors in the same way that I've shown you. Have a look online and see if you can find anybody. And again, just listen to the poem and allow yourself to feel the effects of the poem. Let the poet do their job. Okay, they've spent a long time, and if they're published, it's because they're good at what they do. And let the language wash over you and just feel the effects of the poem. You could, and perhaps should, if you can, watch your Shakespeare play. Okay, so find a recording of it and watch it, and just allow yourself to be absorbed by it. So listen to it carefully, enjoy it. You don't need to sit and take notes. You've done lots of study on the play, but actually it might be that you read it or watched it a long, long time ago, and you've been doing so much analysis that it would be nice to just revisit and just watch it and enjoy it, or read it if you prefer to do that. The other thing you could do is get your friends over and each take a part in the play and actually act it out. You'd be surprised at how impactful that could be. I know, it sounds a bit strange, but why not? What have you got to lose? Get some popcorn in and some crisps or whatever. Get your friends around, apportion roles to each friend, and act it out and really ham it up and play on the language. But reconnect yourself with the actual play itself, and take yourself away from the analysis and just try to enjoy the play. And again, you have time. Remember, we've talked about reading for pleasure before you go to bed at night for an hour, for example. Reread your 19th century and modern texts slowly and just enjoy them. Rekindle the connection that you had with them right at the beginning when you started to study them. As I said, in lessons you do lots of analysis, but just reread them and reconnect with them as a piece of art, a piece of literature. So I'm just going to share with you some poems that I have found. These are Christmassy poems, and I'm just going to read them to you, a few of them. I don't know how long we're going to go on with this for, but I've found a few of them. I'm going to read them to you, and I just want you to think about how they make you feel and what they're about. And then perhaps you could look back if you want to, or as you're listening now, you could just take a quick screenshot of this or find it for yourself online and just read it through for yourself and have a look at some of the language that's used and all of the different poetic devices that we've discussed. Can you find any in here, and what impact does it have on you? What effect do these devices have on you? So this is by J.R.R. Tolkien, and it's called Noel. Grim was the world and grey last night. The moon and stars were fled. The hall was dark without song or light. The fires were fallen dead. The wind in the trees was like to the sea, and over the mountains' teeth it whistled bitter cold and free, as a sword leapt from its sheath. The Lord of Snows upreared his head, his mantle long and pale upon the bitter blast was spread and hung o'er hill and dale. The world was blind, the boughs were bent, all ways and paths were wild. Then the veil of cloud apart was rent, and here was born a child. The ancient dome of heaven sheer was pricked with distant light. A star came shining, white and clear, alone above the night. In the dale of dark, in that hour of birth, one voice on a sudden sang. Then all the bells in heaven and earth together at midnight rang. Mary sang in this world below. They heard her song arise o'er mist and over mountain snow. To the walls of paradise, and the tongue of many bells was stirred in heaven's towers to ring when the voice of mortal maid was heard. That was Mother of Heaven's King. Glad is the world and fair this night, with stars about its head, and the hall is filled with laughter and light, and fires are burning red. The bells of paradise now ring with bells of Christendom, and Gloria, Gloria, we will sing that God on earth is come. Okay, that's a rather lovely poem, and have a think about how the poem starts and what sort of language is used to set the scene here, and how the language changes by the end. What sort of words are used that are completely different from those that are used at the beginning. Think about the structure of the poem. Think about what imagery is used as well. Think about here was born a child. Why is there a capital C on child? Who is this child? We know who the child is. It's called Noel, isn't it? So what's it about? And have a think about the imagery. As I said, the imagery that you've got the bitter cold, and you've got the Lord of Snows upreared, and you've got here singing, and the ancient dome of heaven sheer was pricked with distant light. We've got white, and here we've got dark. We've got dead, and we've got bright and laughter and light. So there's loads of things you can look at here. And this is what I mean by taking a poem a day or every other day if you can. Just pick a poem and have a look at it. And do what we do in our lessons with the poem. You don't have to be rigorous about it. You don't have to make any notes, or you don't have to think of it as a test or an exam question or anything. Just enjoy the process of like, wow, I love the fact that here I feel really dark and dingy, and here I feel, this is how I feel here. Why do I feel lighter than I did at the beginning, and so on. So that's something you could do. And let's have a look at another one. This one's called The Christmas Rose by Cecil Day Lewis. What is the flower that blooms each year in flowerless days, making a little blaze on the bleak earth, giving my heart some cheer? Harsh the sky and hard the ground when the Christmas rose is found. Look, its white star low on earth raise a vision of rebirth. Who is the child that's born each year, his bedding straw, his grace enough to thaw my wintering life and melt a world's despair? Harsh the sky and hard the earth when the Christmas child comes forth. Look, around a stable throne, beasts and wise men are at one. Harsh the sky and hard the earth when the Christmas child comes. Oh, sorry, I repeated that one when I cut and paste it. Sorry. What men are we that year on year we, Herod-wise, in our cold wits devise a death of innocence, a rule of fear? Hushed your earth, full starred your sky, for a new nativity. Be born in us, relieve our plight, Christmas child, you rose of light. So there's loads to talk about here. I'm really sorry that I did that. It should only be one, and I should have cut that one out, but never mind. Have a look at this. What's it about? It's talking about a Christmas rose. So there's flower imagery. So we know that there is a parallel being drawn between the flower, the Christmas rose that comes out of the hard ground. And we're looking at how that makes us feel optimistic. It gives your heart some cheer. You feel optimistic. There's some beauty in there somewhere. And then there's this connection with Jesus being born and how his presence melts the world's despair. And then Cecil Day Lewis goes on to talk about the harsh the sky and hard the earth. So this is what the world is like. The world is hard. The earth is hard. The sky is hard. Our world is dark and hard when Jesus comes along and relieves us of our plight. So Jesus comes and brings hope with him. Okay, so there's a really lovely poem as well. This is another one that I want to bring to you because this is a completely different version. Talking turkeys. Now, Benjamin Zephaniah died very recently in the week, a poet who came from Jamaica. And you might want to look up some of his poems and see. There was one well, anyway, so you've got time to have a little research. If you Google him, you'll find information about the fact that he died recently. I think he was 60-something years old. And so he is Jamaican, and that's why it's written like this. I'm really sorry, I cannot do a Jamaican accent, but I'm going to read it for you anyway. Be nice to your turkeys this Christmas, because turkeys just want to have fun. Turkeys are cool, turkeys are wicked, and every turkey has a mum. Be nice to your turkeys this Christmas. Don't eat it. Keep it alive. It could be your mate and not on your plate. Say, yo, turkey, I'm on your side. I got lots of friends who are turkeys, and all of them fear Christmas time. They want to enjoy it. They say humans destroyed it and humans are out of their mind. Yeah, I got a lot of friends who are turkeys. They all have a right to a life, not to be caged up and genetically made up by any farmer and his wife. Turkeys just want to play reggae. Turkeys just want to hip hop. Can you imagine a nice young turkey saying, I cannot wait for the chop? Turkeys like getting presents. They want to watch Christmas TV. Turkeys have brains and turkeys feel pain in many ways, like you and me. I once knew a turkey called Turkey. He said, Benji, explain to me, please, who put the turkey in Christmas and what happens to Christmas trees? I said, I'm not too sure, Turkey, but it's nothing to do with Christmas. Humans get greedy and waste more than need be, and businessmen make loads of cash. Be nice to your turkey this Christmas. Invite them indoors for some greens. Let them eat cake and let them partake in a plate of organic grown beans. Be nice to your turkey this Christmas and spare them the cut of the knife. Join Turkeys United and they'll be delighted, and you'll make new friends for life. Okay, I really like the one. Actually, turkey is not a Christmassy thing. We used to eat, oh, so I'm sorry, I did a fatal mistake of not turning my phone off. We used to eat goose and pheasant, actually. Turkey is a bit of an American import, then again. Okay, so there's a nice one. Another one which is a totally different tone altogether. Slightly comic, but with a hint of sadness in it, and maybe something that we should all remember at Christmas time. This is by Wendy Cope. So at Christmas, little children sing and merry bells jingle. The cold winter air makes our hands and face tingle, and happy families go to church and cheerily they mingle. And the whole business is unbelievably dreadful if you're single. So there's something else for us. And this one I'm going to read you because I read it to my little children every single Christmas Eve before they went to sleep. And if you get bored, you can shut me off now because this is the last one. Was the night before Christmas. And actually this poet wrote it not for the general public, but for his own children. How amazing is this? 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the lustre of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." And on that note, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Ta-da! I'll see you in the new year.
Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Will. I'm the head of maths and physics for Bright Teach online, and today I have a Christmas holidays presentation to share with you guys and how to make the most of your Christmas holidays. So, first things first, before we even get started, I'd really recommend for you to make a schedule with regular breaks. So, it's really good at the start of the holiday season to decide how much work am I going to do, how much revision am I going to do on each of these topics, and when will I have time to rest? When will I give myself time to rest? We've got to be intentional about that. So you might want to spend a bit more time on certain subjects than others. You might need more rest, or you might think, gosh, I really need to crack on with this. I haven't been doing all that much, and I'm going to make the most of this Christmas holidays to use that time for revision. Whether you do that or not, it's down to you. Only you know what you need, but I would really recommend make sure you schedule in time for you to rest. Time for you to rest and recuperate. And if you've been working non-stop all the time and you really need the rest, take the time to rest. Rest is productive. So that is my first study tip. My second study tip is make a list of topics and cross them off. So cross them off as you go. Spend more time on the ones that you're not confident with. Remember, learning is just persistence. And I tell you what's really, really good about study.brightteach.com is you can go down and you can cross off the topics as you go. So if you wanted to spend a bit more time on bounds, you could go on bounds, you could have a look through, okay, what do I need to know? That's what I need to know. I'm going to mark that as complete. I'm feeling confident with that now. And even more helpfully, at the top, there are topic questions at the top. So you can click on, okay, I'm doing AQA. If you're unsure of the exam board that you're with, it'll be on the front of the textbooks you've been working on, or on the front of papers that you've been doing. But anyway, and then you can go, okay, I really need to do some questions on SERDs, and then we've got SERD questions here and mark schemes. So you can go through questions and then decide whether you are confident on it, and then you can go and cross them out. So really practical, really, really helpful. And then if there's a topic that you're not sure of, you can always drop me a message or put it in the brightteach.com, tag me in it, or just request it during the live streams, during the live lessons. Okay, so study tip 2, make a list of topics and cross them off. That way you can keep track of what are you confident with, what are you not confident with. And then my third study tip is past papers. Again, all available on study.brightteach.com. You can go through these past papers without a mark scheme and then mark it. That is really, really important, that you are looking at the mark schemes and you're seeing how do they mark these questions. There are so many questions where you can write something correct, but that's not exactly what they're asking. All they're trying to do is get the information out of you. They're trying to find out, okay, do you know this thing? And you might write something else. So it's really important to figure out, how do they mark? How do they specifically mark this work? Because once you know how they mark it, you can write your answers as that, right? So immensely important that you go through past papers. You can even grade yourself, but find out the grade boundaries of that year as well. Because some years it might be 60% is an A, another year 60% might be a C. Do you see what I mean? So yes, find the grade boundaries, mark it. Yeah, I couldn't recommend, do as many past papers as you can, especially when it comes to stuff like maths and physics. Okay, so those are my study tips. Make a schedule with regular breaks. Make sure you rest. Make a list of topics and cross them off. Be systematic about how you study when you are studying, and then past papers. The best practice for your GCSEs is doing GCSEs from last year and the year before that and the year before that. Okay, so which topics should you spend a bit of extra time on and you should look out for in maths? So for maths, I would say look out for algebra. Algebra is such a vast topic in GCSE maths. Here you go, it starts here and it goes down and down and down and down, and it goes on to the next page, and it's all of this as well. So there are so many topics in algebra to look out for. I would say specifically for algebra, make sure that you know your basics. Make sure you've got your basics down really, really well, because that's going to help you out in all other aspects of maths, and it's really going to help you out in physics as well. So for example, when we're looking at something like speed equals distance divided by time, being able to rearrange that, being able to rearrange equations, that is all algebra. So we're gonna really want to know how to rearrange equations. That comes up in physics all the time, as I'll give an example of in a bit. But yes, make sure you've got your algebra basics down to a T, and then it will make the rest of, particularly obviously algebra, but other maths topics and other physics topics much easier. Okay, so algebra. Make sure you've got algebra down. And the second topic to look out for in maths is those right-angled triangles. So I'm talking about Pythagoras and trigonometry. Trigonometry and Pythagoras are both in foundation and higher maths papers. In foundation, it'll be two-dimensional, and it will only go up to you'll need to know your SOHCAHTOA, your sine x equals opposite over hypotenuse, and the rest for cos and tan. You need to know those, and you'll need to know which sides of the right angled triangle is your hypotenuse, your adjacent, and your opposite, obviously depending on where the angle is. So it's really important that you understand that. And then when it comes to the higher papers, it's really important that that we understand our 3D Pythagoras and our 3D trigonometry. Because up to this point, we've been working in 2 dimensions, especially when it comes to geometry. But now suddenly there's a 3rd dimension to think about into the paper, or sort of however you want to think about it. So when it comes to our 3D Pythagoras, we need to know that our a squared plus our b squared equals our e squared, sorry. And the e is the back left bottom corner here, going up to our front right top corner over here. So there's a whole new dimension to think of. And it's really important that we understand exactly how this works, and we don't just use this equation. This equation is very helpful. It's a bit of a shortcut, which is wonderful, but it's important to understand why this equation works. So you can just do a squared plus b squared plus c squared equals d squared, which is that angle there. But it's important to know, okay, that a squared plus b squared is this, equals this e squared here, and then e squared plus c squared equals d squared. Yes, so make sure you wrap your minds around this 3rd dimension if you're doing higher, and of course that all applies to the 3D trigonometry as well. Now, the second topic to look out for that was already, yeah, so great. We've done our 2 topics for maths. Now on to physics. What topics should we look out for in physics? Well, I would say the first one to look out for is electricity. So why do we need to look out for electricity? Well, with other topics, it's a lot easier to visualize what's going on. If we're talking about forces and Newtonian physics with Newton's laws, the 3 laws that, by the way, you should make sure you've memorized. It's very easy to visualize a man going along on a bike or something falling through the air, but it's a lot more difficult to visualize exactly what's going on inside a circuit without having a really good understanding of what all of these words mean, like voltage, current, charge, resistance. So we need to remember that voltage is the driving force of a circuit. That's like the pushing force of that current. The current, we'll go with charge next. So charge is the property of the electrons that are flowing. Remember, electricity is a flow of electrons. So charge is how many electrons that there are. The more electrons there are, the bigger the charge is. And then the current is the rate of flow of charge. It's how much charge is going past a point per second, right? So it's how much charge is there flowing. That is our current. And then resistance is the resistance to that current. It's a bit like air resistance. It's if there's an object going forward, air resistance is the force that resists that, and this is the property of the material, of the wire, that resists that flow of current. The more wire there is, the more resistance there is, because there's more matter there, there's more metal there to resist that flow of current. So it's good to understand that. And then also we need to understand our relationship between voltage, current, and resistance. Here is our rearranging equations again. Current is voltage divided by resistance, which means resistance is voltage divided by current, and voltage is current times resistance. So it's really important that we know how to rearrange these equations. And then the next step to that is understanding how those properties relate to each other. So if there's more voltage, is there going to be more current? If there's more resistance, is there going to be less current? Yes, there is. If there's more resistance, there's going to be less current. And if there's more voltage, there's going to be more current, right? So we need to understand, how are these proportional to each other? Are they proportional? Are they inversely proportional to each other? If one goes up, does the other go down? If one goes up, does that one go up? We need to understand the relationships between current, voltage, and resistance. They're really common questions in GCSE physics papers. And I think the last thing I want to say about electricity is remembering our circuit devices. So we need to remember these. I've really recommending flashcards and how each of these things work. So for example, a diode, the current only goes in one direction. A light emitting diode, an LED, which hopefully you'll have lots of up around the house and on the Christmas tree, are light emitting diodes. And then figuring out how these resistors work. In particular, this is a really common mistake people make. So for example, this is a light dependent resistor. So it resists, the amount of resistance depends on the light. And so you'd think, okay, more light equals more resistance. But that's not the case. Actually, the more light there is, the less resistance there is. And so it's a bit counterintuitive, but that's a really common mistake. So remember, if there's more light, then there's less resistance. And it's the same with a thermistor. The hotter it is, actually, the less resistance there is. Don't get those mixed up. It is counterintuitive. Okay, what else should you look out for in physics? Well, I think forces is one that is really good to look out for. Understanding how forces work, mega important. So for example, mass and weight, and what the difference between mass and weight is. So of course, weight is the pull on us, is the due to gravity. Mass is how much of an object there is. It's like it's a property of a physical thing. How much mass is there? So that's just a property. If you went to space, your mass would be the same. But if you went into space, you might be weightless because there's no force due to gravity. So weight is the mass times the acceleration due to gravity, and mass is just a property of a physical thing. It's how much of that thing is there. And of course, weight is a force. It's the force due to gravity. And mass is just a property of any physical thing. Okay, so that is, we're done with the boring stuff. Well done for sticking around so far. Hope you are having a wonderful Christmas holiday. So those are the maths and physics things to look out for. Now for the fun stuff. What maths and physics movies and TV shows should you watch? this Christmas? Well, I would recommend Oppenheimer. So, we go Oppenheimer. So it is about the creation of the atomic bomb, and it really links in to the radiation topic in GCSE physics. This is about the guys who figured out that you could create force from splitting atoms. Obviously, it's about the creation of the atomic bomb. So there's lots of scientists, real historical people being portrayed in this. Albert Einstein is portrayed in this as someone of whom they consult with, and you do learn things about these scientists. People assume Einstein was great at everything, when in actual fact he was dyslexic and wasn't great at doing massive calculations. He was more brilliant at the theory side of things, and the sort of the big picture stuff, and the less mathematical things. And that's the man who, well, it's Einstein, isn't he? So yes, it's brilliant. I recommend it. Watch it. Be inspired. The next thing I would recommend is Imitation Game, starring Benedict Cumberbatch. So this is about the man who cracked the German Enigma code during World War II. It's a team of mathematicians cracking secret codes and figuring out what they meant. So again, lots of maths in it, being portrayed very well. Real world people, real world history, and watch it, be inspired. Okay, last thing I would recommend, and this isn't quite a movie or a TV show, but just a brilliant YouTube channel. I'd recommend this above all else, is Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. You've probably seen their videos before. Loads of them are viral with hundreds of millions of views. But what they are just fantastic videos made using scientific research by teams of scientists, and then presented in such an accessible and fun way, with these sort of cartoons. But they'll ask questions like, what happens if you destroy a black hole? Like, what happens if you nuked it? Galaxy killer, quasars a black hole that kills galaxies, quasars, and then also other stuff. There's some existential ones, most extreme explosion in the universe. So there's lots of physics stuff here. There's also biology stuff and chemistry. How to change your life. So there's all sorts of educational, but really fun, really accessible. They are genuinely interesting and genuinely great to watch. How to win an interstellar war. Yeah, it takes you through the physics of how it all works as well. Really good stuff to know. They've got one on the biggest stars in the universe, and they take you through how stars are made, right? Which is directly GCSE physics, I have questions all about that. So I very much recommend that you watch Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. That's what the YouTube channel looks like. But that is all from me. So have a lovely rest of your Christmas holidays. Make sure you rest up. Make sure you systematically revise, do those past papers, look out for those difficult topics, and just do your best. No one can ask more from you than your best. And remember that no one gets things straight away. The difference between you passing and failing is just persistence. So keep persisting, keep working hard, prioritize rest, make sure you rest up as well, take good care of yourselves, and have a wonderful Christmas.